This is Jamal Clark with the Actors Podcast, Episode 2. And I'm here with Chris Della Rosa, actor, writer.
Hey guys, how you doing? Chris, like Jamal said, thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you for coming.
Of course. So we're here to talk about some acting stuff, huh?
Yes. The reason why I started this acting podcast is since I've been living in New England for a while, and I noticed that ever since 2019, the movie industry has picked up in Massachusetts. We had some great films here. Of course, recently everybody's familiar with The Holdovers getting an Oscar and representing Boston at its finest. So now that more studios and more businesses are opening up in the New England area, we want to try to see, well, for me, I'm trying to see if anybody can learn from the steps of getting into this industry, or as they say, breaking into the industry, whether it's acting, whether it's writing. Maybe you want to be a director, producer, things of that nature. So at this actor podcast, we're able to discuss certain topics of merit and of note, and as well talk about some of the parameters that you need to prepare for when you're going into this industry, because it is a level of professionalism and that we expect that from everyone. So go ahead, Chris. We're going to talk about writing, since I know that that's your forte.
Yes, writing. I mean, writing is it's a lot harder than it sounds. You go to school and you write papers all the time, but to come up with a story that you want to portray and that you want it to make sense from beginning to end, it takes a lot of layers. And by that I mean you have to think about everything. You have to think about, okay, what are you going to call this show? First of all, it's the idea, the rough idea. Before you even have characters, what do you want character A to go through with character B? How many other letters of the alphabet characters do you want to be portrayed, focus on TV? Because you have your protagonist, antagonist, and then you have, side characters that you want to portray as well. So once you have an idea of a story, then you can start putting pen to paper, pencil to paper, whatever you prefer. For me, I did a lot of my ideas. I had a whiteboard, and then I would say, hey, this is the overall story. Okay, what are the smaller stories within the story? Okay, what are the tinier stories within the story? What are the stories that you may not want to portray in the movie, but it's important to know because it builds this character.
Right.
So it does take a lot of layers into putting thought on exactly what you want to have, what's the end product, what kind of story do you want to tell? Do you want to tell romance? Do you want to tell horror? Do you want to tell action? Do you want to tell comedy? And it could be a mixture. We have romantic comedies. We have comedy action. We have a lot of different paths that you can take with your story, whether you want to make it fantasy or whether you want to make it a little bit more realistic. Fast and the Furious crossed the borders between both of those. At this point, it started with realism. Now we got fantasy. So you can have a story do both if you want.
Agreed. You can. And so when I see good writing, I definitely want to jump on it, especially when I look at the script and I already see where it's going, where it's transitioning, especially from beginning to end. That's my biggest thing. And Chris, do you have any suggestions for new writers starting out, getting into this business?
Yeah, absolutely. New writers, I would say, think about the things that you haven't thought about. As in, you have your main characters. You probably have your main characters pick out and your side characters. Well, what are the side characters' backstory? You may not put that in your script, but it's important for you to know what your character's side backstories are, so that way you can develop this character for the long of your, what drives this person. What do you want to? It's easier for you to portray what that is on paper if you know what this character's backstory is. So even if you don't, go through each one of your characters' list, give them your own backstory. What happened when they were a kid, and how did they get to be the person that they are today? So that's my biggest advice. A lot of people don't think about that.
Excellent. Yes, I agree. And so, for the new writers out there, definitely take note. There's a lot of different programs and schools and organizations that you can start off with, especially here in the New England area. There's definitely a vast amount of universities. If you really want to go into creative writing and really step it up and be the next Aaron Sorkin, the next David Simon.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. The sky's the limit. You never know when your script is gonna be that script, right? You never know when you get the script in front of the right person if they're gonna tell you the right things. So
Yes.
if your passion is writing, I say go for it every single time. Start writing, start off small. Draw characters if you want. Draw characters with little bubbles above their head, what they want to say, and then you can grow that into a script. There's plenty of programs out there that'll help you map out a script and exactly how it's supposed to look like. So it's once you have the idea, you have your characters, you know where the story is gonna go. It's just a matter of continuing the dialogue.
Exactly. And would you say for the characters that are being written, is there like a challenge or a protagonist that needs to be in any story?
There to make the story interesting, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, there needs to be an antagonist because if not, if everybody you start your story and everyone's happy from minute one, that's just that's just normal life.
Right.
Hopefully, it's normal life. If you've had some struggles within your life, you have your story. There's no interesting story without struggle, without conflict, and that's the world we live in. People watch things because they want to see conflict. You, girls. Everybody knows a girl that loves Basketball Wives.
Yes.
It's because of the conflict. They don't
Right.
want to jump on this show and see everybody happy throughout 4 or 5 seasons. They
Right.
they want to see conflict.
Yes. It's almost like they try to relive the moment through a different lens or a different uh, bird view's eye of a situation. And even for people who watch Cops,
Hmm.
they see it's a day to day thing. It's not fake or anything, but they can see the situations that these cops go through. That's why it was the most popular show on television.
Absolutely. You tell me you go through any reality TV show, and you tell me one title of a TV show where there's absolutely no conflict. They've recorded these people's lives, and they're just the happiest that they can be every single episode. No one's gonna watch that.
Agreed.
No one's going to watch that. Unfortunately, that's it's the world we live in. We
Right.
we live normal lives, and we want to see people living abnormal lives.
Yes. And that's why I love when Russell Crowe said, "Are you not entertained?" Because this is what it's all about. We are
Absolutely.
in the entertainment business. So when it comes to writing, we're trying to entertain you. We're also making you think. We're also making you feel. It's that human experience, to me, is very important when it comes to writing.
Yeah, and it starts there. It starts with the writing. Maybe you have a pre-written story, from a book. Then it doesn't start with the writing. It starts with casting your characters. But
Right.
if you don't have a book, then you can't have anywhere. You won't go anywhere without a story.
Exactly. Perfect. Now, transitioning over to acting, because I understand you had some experience in that.
I have.
Just talk with me regarding your first experience, like going on set and all that good stuff.
So my first experience going on set, well, I did a lot of classes first, but those don't really count. Yeah. They put you in front of a camera and you kind of like wing it, and it was crazy. And I only bring it up because it was a crazy first experience to me.
Yeah.
They just tell me, all right, now get in front of the class with this other person that you don't know.
Right.
Okay, now improv something.
Just do it.
Just go ahead, do it, and the whole class is watching you, and it's just but it does a couple things, right? It gets away of that public fear. There's a word for it.
Breaking the ice.
Yep, breaking the ice, and you know you you get rid of that shyness. You get rid of that shyness, and then once I got into it, where he's accusing me of cheating on his sister. That's what he
This is
decided.
juicy.
This is what he decided to go with, and then
Yeah.
you start arguing back and forth, and one thing led to the other. We were just on par. We were having an argument about things that were completely untrue in front of a class of people, and they ate it up.
See, that's the thing, and there was an actor that talked about that, and his name is Michael Caine, very well known, very well respected. He talked about when two people are talking, and if they're just rehearsing and going over lines, that's one thing. And somebody will walk by and they say, "Oh yeah, you're rehearsing." But if they think you're really in a conversation and you were just playing around, that's where the magic happens. And I think that's what you were trying to explain because they're eating it up, even though it's not real, but everybody believes it is, and that's how they draw you in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And something I learned from Bates Wilder. I don't know if you know who that is.
Yes, very
Bates Wilder
talented.
is
Yes.
is a very talented actor. He teaches acting classes in Boston. It was a great experience. I couldn't say any more positive things about Bates Wilder.
Yes, I've been hearing from everybody in the acting community to take classes with him. He has, I believe, 3 tiers, and the third tier is the advanced acting. Of course, you have to audition in order to be accepted in that because they go over scripts, they go over characters, they go over the complexities, and then really just drawing into these different emotions of a character to really put on display. So
Right.
I do suggest anybody in the New England area, it's slate casting and it's Bates Wilder.
That's right. Well, that's free advertising for Bates Wilder. So you're welcome.
Exactly. You're welcome. But
Tell him we started a podcast here. Jamal started a podcast, and he should come watch and listen to it.
yeah, of course. I mean, from all the other directors and actors and even some producers that I've talked to, especially in the New England area, they're seeing the changes happen here because we know we have a vast history here. And so there's tons of stories to really write about here. And so that's why, even in my first episode, we talked about different ways that we can tell a compelling story, even from like the American Revolution up to now, as far as where Boston was put in place on that, where New England itself is put on place. Because to go back to the history of Hollywood, it's actually in Jersey, guys. It's not really in California.
That's right.
It was only because of, you know, the famous, you know, the lighting man, as they say.
That's right.
Yes, Edison. He had a monopoly over the lighting, so they had to move to California. That's the real reason behind the story.
Yeah, and not only that, but Boston. Going back to Boston being a hotbed for movies and for acting. And one of its advantages is that if you're in the city, it looks so much like New York.
Yes,
And a lot of these movies, if you notice, they're based in New York, but they're not filmed in New York.
correct.
Like Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters, for instance.
Yeah,
First thing that came to my head.
Ghostbusters. I was on set for that one too, and they had the NYC cabs there on the street on,
Right.
on Congress Street.
Yep, I remember.
And they had everything looked like New York, but it wasn't. We were standing in Boston, so it's an advantage because on a Sunday Boston's a ghost town. Sunday morning Boston is a ghost town, which isn't the case for New York. You can't
No.
just shut down a street in New York to film.
No.
But it's easier to do it in Boston because it's a working city,
Yes,
so there's a lot less people in the working area
correct.
when you're on a Sunday or a Saturday.
Yes.
Saturday a little bit more people, but
Right.
Sunday it's pretty dead.
It is pretty dead, and I've noticed that a couple times going into Boston on Sundays, just for meetings I've had. It's completely quiet. It's free parking also in the city.
Yeah, and it's easy for them to pay for a street to be blocked off
Right.
and film a movie there. It's very easy. The mayor, at least back then, Baker, made it. Is that the governor? I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, the mayor and the governor did approve it. I think it was 2018 that they renewed contracts for film and television here, and that was part of the parameters was the tax breaks.
Oh, there you go. You see, and it's just so easy, to find work, and a lot of the big film industries will find themselves here to film a scene at least. Ghostbusters just one of them. We had Daddy's Home 2.
Correct.
We had what was the other one? Central Intelligence.
Yep. Yep.
That was filmed here as well.
R.I.P.D.
R.I.P.D. was filmed here. The
Yep.
Boston Marathon obviously
Yep.
was filmed
Marathon.
here
Yep. Yep.
with Mark Wahlberg.
Correct.
I've had the pleasure of actually being on set with Mark Wahlberg twice.
Yes. Now tell me how that experience is, because I've had one with him as well. So I want to hear your experience.
Well, with Mark Wahlberg on the marathon set, that it wasn't anything personable. You could see him. We were kind of in the stands.
Yeah.
And then the explosion went off. So we were filming that scene where the explosion actually went off. So it was just chaos,
Yeah.
And that's what they wanted to portray. It was just chaos. Everybody's running all over the place. Everybody is scattering. People. The actual stand actors are the ones that they casted to have the dirt on them
Yes.
and come out crying like
Right.
they were coming out. It looked like one of those horror movies.
Yeah.
Or a haunted house set. If you go and pay $40 in New Hampshire, you
Yep.
get to have the haunted house experience. It seemed like that, actors coming out in character, which was awesome and also terrifying to see at once.
It's like Spooky World live in action.
That's right. And then the second time I was on set with Mark, it was Daddy's Home 2. And there was a little bit more different. I can see how Mark, and I respected him because he did his work, he did it well, and then he went home. And I can relate to that. Just
Yes.
coming to work, doing my job and going back home, and that's what Mark did. He came, he did his job, he did it well, and then he went home. You can't respect anything more.
Came, saw, and conquered.
That's
and
right.
so that's the other thing to keep in mind when it comes to this job that we do is it is a job, but it's something that we love to do.
That's right.
And it's not your typical 9 to 5, folks. We do work 14 to 16-hour shifts on set.
Oh man, oh man, you have no idea. That set of Daddy's Home 2, we were there for a week, and
Wow.
we would arrive I would have to leave home at 6 a.m. and we would get there, 7, 8 a.m.
Yep.
And then we would film to about 8 p.m. And then there was this one time we filmed until about 1 in the morning.
Oh, so y'all make golden time.
Yeah, we made golden time. It was because they needed to finish that day.
Yeah.
They only had the movie theater rental
Right.
that day, and it was the last scene. If you've seen the movie, you know which scene I'm talking about.
Exactly.
At the end with the movie theaters, it shuts down. So it took about a week to do that scene, and when you see the movie, it's about 10 minutes of the movie. So they're doing a lot of work for a little bit of screen time. I just need you to understand that.
And I think that's very important for the public to see that as well. I mean, it is love and movie magic, but to put all this together takes a lot of detail, a lot of precision,
That's right.
a lot of angles, a lot of everything. So, with that, transitioning from being on set and learning about the different parameters of Hollywood at its finest, have you done any student films?
Student films, yes. Boston University, shout out to them.
Yes.
I
Yes.
did this, and they're always looking for work because that's
Correct.
what they need. They need to show a film to pass their final grade in directing and camera production. It's like a collaboration, which it gives a lot of people. Not only it's free work, which is great. It's fine because they're college students, so they unfortunately they can't pay you.
No.
But I always love to do it because one, it looks good on your resume, and two, it gets you experience being behind the camera in a somewhat major role that you wouldn't have the opportunity to have on a major film.
Agreed.
So I remember this one time. I had a a gig with Boston University, and they had this short film which was semi comedy, semi action,
Hmm.
and it was these guys that got high. They were in couch sales or furniture
Yeah.
sales, and a drug lord comes in,
Uh-huh.
and they accidentally kill him by dropping a couch on him. He wanted a couch that's on the top shelf, and while they were bringing it down, it fell on him. So
Jeez.
then other people come in
Yeah.
and looking for the drug lord, and they had stuffed the guy in a couch.
What?
So, and my role, now I'm a big guy,
Yeah.
I'm a big guy. My role was to be a vegan protester because they were using leather couches, which were made out of. So I would stand outside in a hippie shirt with a protest sign as big as I am, saying I am not a vegan. But I had it
Yeah.
out there, and I was like, "Stop killing animals! You're making couches," which I respect.
Yeah. Yeah.
We shouldn't be making animal couches.
I agree.
I want to
I
get
agree.
that out of there. I'm not a vegan. I eat animals, but I'm not gonna condone
Yeah.
making couches out of animals. But it was just funny to see
That
because
is funny.
I was portraying a vegan character.
I got to see this scene now because this is definitely sparked my interest.
It is somewhere deep in my emails. I'm gonna
Okay.
have to pull it
Yes, because I do want to see
out.
this. I mean, sometimes when I see actors doing their first major role, it's very interesting.
Right.
Very interesting. Breakout roles.
What was your first?
Boston University experience, I was actually a bartender. And I'm trying to remember the name of the clip, but I will have it displayed for everybody. I was playing a bartender, and the scene was about a guy who was going away with a girl, but she had a man on the side, and they were looking to rob him after they drug him. And so that was the whole transition. And then when I went to go to the premiere, I actually got to see my name in the credits. Originally, I was just background, and then they gave me a speaking role, and then they put me in the credits. And that's right there taught me I need to do this because sometimes you have to see yourself on screen. And it's hard to visualize that here, but when you actually see it in these two eyes, you're like, okay, it is possible now. It's almost like you got to play the fool card and take the leap of faith.
Yeah, that's one thing I learned in Boston casting. It's completely different to, in Boston casting, I had a teacher that didn't want to show us what we
Interesting.
what we look like.
Hmm.
His logic was that you would be more natural if you didn't see how you acted, and if you just go off of feeling instead of, you know, seeing yourself and nitpicking at yourself and saying, hey, I want to change this, I want to change that.
Yeah.
Instead of doing all of that, you just do what you feel natural. Just go for it.
Right.
And once you start looking at yourself, you start changing things, and those may not be positive changes. So he didn't want to see any of that. He wanted to see clear progression throughout the weeks of classes.
Interesting. Now, I know a lot of different teachers have different ways. I think when I went to, this was a session that I went to 2 years ago called the Universal Actor Session, and that was managed by my agency. And I went out to California for 3 days. They only handpicked 20 of us to meet all the agents out in California, mostly boutique agencies, nothing that were high up like Wilhelmina Models or CAA. It was only boutique, so it was the middle range. The thing is, after meeting all the agents and then some of the casting directors, because I also met somebody who's currently working, that's the other thing. Meet somebody who's currently in film, who's working. If you have a teacher who hasn't done anything in about 5, 10 years, sorry, it's just no. You need somebody who's currently working, who's seeing it all right then and there. And his name was Sean Huff and Brent Huff. So I met the wife, Sean, and then Brent was the one who was teaching the class. And he's in The Rookie, and he was also in West Wing as well. And so I got to learn subtleties. Subtleties is very important in acting because as the other person is talking, they're watching you. They're watching how you respond, how do you react, how you're looking before your line comes. So that's the other thing. to keep into play. And the person that taught me that the most was Patrick Baca, who's a casting director out in LA, Burbank, California.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. And same with my acting coach. And I can't remember his name right now for the life of me, but he was in Ted 2.
Oh, okay.
Um, he uh, he was in that scene where Ted is fighting with his girlfriend in their apartment,
Yeah.
and then they stick their head out the window, and he's the one yelling down at Ted.
Oh, that's
From
him?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
he's one of the he's one of the coaches in Boston Casting.
Okay.
So
Now it's starting to get familiar.
yeah,
Yeah.
so him he taught us a lot, and
Okay.
he was the same guy that said about the camera not seeing yourself
Yeah.
and feeling more natural, and just coming from the gut. If you're gonna get angry, find something in you that makes you angry and
Right.
yell at that person.
Yeah. Because I mean, you're not going to be angry right now, but you're going to try something to build you up to that. And there was another film that I heard about. I forgot what it was. It was a waitress who was serving food, and the director wanted her to get angry because of the way she was being treated, but she couldn't because she lived a good life. So he had to find ways to try to irritate her just for the scene. And sometimes that happens, like Jack Nicholson in The Shining. I'm going to give you just sandwiches and cheese, and then we're going to do a line of cocaine, and then you're going to break through this door with an axe. Do you see what I mean? Like, it's just building up to that, and that's all part of the process.
Jim Carrey's phenomenal at this.
Oh, yes, he is.
Jim Carrey will
He's
not break
talented.
character. No, if he's filming a film, he is that character.
Yes.
The duration of the film, even when you're not filming, he is that character.
And this is a good transition. So from method acting to, you know, what they call it, Strasberg, and then you also have the other one.
Um,
It'll come to me in a minute.
right.
I know, right?
So it's I don't know. We're just gonna say stay in character.
Yes.
We're gonna say stay in character. So it's
Because I'm only familiar with Strasberg because he
Right.
was in The Godfather 2. Even though he trained all those great actors, he was in the movie as well. So that's why some people, they may prefer method acting to really get into the character, or just really just trying to bring out something from your own experience. And I think that's where sometimes we run into those issues, because I've seen a lot of actors complain for people who were too much into it. Like, we know Daniel Day-Lewis. I mean, that guy, when it comes to method acting, I mean, it's the last of the Mohicans for a reason. So,
right. Joaquin Phoenix is another
yes,
go. Oh man.
yes, yes, he can.
Now, yeah, and it's just that it's feeling. Now, obviously, you can't do this with every character, right?
No,
Because
no.
you, you know, uh, Tom Holland can't be Spider Man. On top of
Right.
in between acting. It's just he can't stay in character as Spider Man. That would look ridiculous.
It would.
But Jim Carrey can definitely play the Doctor in Sonic and stay that character the entire time.
Yes, he can.
It's just basically a crazy scientist. Sure, you can be a crazy scientist or think you're a crazy scientist this whole time.
Right.
And if you can do that, then you're just in the character. You are that character. That character is you.
Now, when it comes to character study, is there anybody in particular you would say you would use, or some features? Like, I know everybody borrows from the greats. That's just how the game works, and the transition over time. Because even Steven Spielberg explained that too, from directors in the past. Where else would they get that information? They look at the past in order to see what they could do, use some of their stuff, and then go forward. Now, with us, and with some of the late greats that are retiring and then also leaving the arena, and there's new faces coming into acting, what do you think about that? as far as like their methods or anything in particular?
First of all, I'd like to say that I like the new actors coming into the industry.
You
It
do?
just
Okay.
it diversifies things,
It
right?
does
Because
diversify.
there's a while you were only seeing the same 10 people in all the movies. You were seeing Kevin Hart and The Rock on
All
every
the time.
comedy action movie.
Hmm.
You were seeing Brad Pitt. You were seeing
George Clooney.
George Clooney. You were seeing all these. Now we got more non-household names
Yes.
taking major roles,
Correct.
which is great, and you see it in Marvel all the time. I hate to keep bringing them up, but
No, it's fine.
in Marvel, they're building. They have household names on there.
Yes, they do.
Tom Holland was not a household name
No,
before
he was not.
Spider-Man.
No, he was not.
He was in a couple movies. He was in that movie with the wave when he was a kid
Yep.
that came and took out everybody.
And he was also in Wolf Hall with a couple of other great British actors as well. One of them is Daniel Lewis, who's also in Billions, which is my favorite show, written by Aaron Sorkin.
Right, but then you have household names still in the mix as well. Pedro Pascal is a really good one. That's
He definitely stepped it up.
He stepped it up, right?
Yeah.
Because he wasn't a household name a couple years ago. Prior to Game of Thrones, nobody knew who he was.
Correct.
And now he's picked it up. He got that show on HBO, The Last of Us,
Love that show.
and he's
Episode
now
5 was the shit.
recently cast as Mr. Fantastic.
Yes, I just found that out.
So he's coming up there, and
Yeah.
I that's great, because
Yes.
he's a great actor.
And that's the thing. I love seeing great actors succeed. I love seeing them because it is a competition, but it's a great competition because you always want to make sure you find the right character for the right role.
Right. Now, speaking of competition,
Glad we got on that.
probably get into union and non-union.
That is very important because this is currently the situation that we just dealt with last year going into this year.
That's right. So, and here's in its simplest terms, union, you have to only pick roles that are union. I don't think you can go back to non-union and actually put it in your resume. You have to be part of the union, you pay a fee, and then you get to be in more major roles, which is fantastic. You get to
Yes.
have speaking roles, and you get to be part of their payroll, which is better, and
Right.
get benefits, and it's all really good pros. Non-union, you can take smaller roles. You can take background characters. You may have a line speaking role,
Right.
but it's not going to be anything big breakthrough. You can't do a commercial unless you're union.
That is correct.
Or unless it's like you don't have a speaking role, you're just part of a group in a background cheering.
And also, you could do print media. But you can't do, I believe it's like those instructional videos.
Right.
I think union members can't do that. It has to be non-union because I know I've done a bunch myself of corporate instruction videos, whether it's for TJ Maxx or any other major corporations. They do hire actors for that as well.
Right. Now, this may seem like, well, great. I'm gonna do some classes and hopefully jump right into the union and
Right.
and get into some speaking roles. Well, that's not how it works, because like I said earlier, once you're in the union, you can only go for union roles.
Correct.
Now you're competing with other union actors who established themselves as non-union workers first. So what I mean by that is that they did a lot of either background characters, which you don't want to stack your resume with background work either. So you
Right.
want to have a good balance of background work and smaller speaking roles.
Correct.
So if they have you say a line, then they'll give you, an X, you get 3 X's, you can go union. But once you get your third X, then you shouldn't jump right into union. You should keep trying to do speaking roles as non-union as much as you can. Stack up your resume as best as you can. That way, when you do go to union, you can actually compete with the union workers.
And that's very important because a lot of people jump in and, it's almost like fast money, you get fast problems, slow money, you get slow problems. So everybody's jumping in to, sign up for the union. But here's the number one thing that a lot of people forget to tell you: the union does not guarantee you work,
Does not.
it's on you.
It's on you to have the right resume for that particular work. And to give you an example, let's say me and Jamal both start acting at the same time.
Correct.
Let's say we got the same roles as non union.
Yep.
3 speaking roles later, Jamal goes and signs up for the union. I stay non union. And for the next 7 years, I continue as non union. He'll continue as union. He can't get work
Correct.
because he only has 3 speaking roles to speak of. And everybody else has 10, 20. Well, me, 7 more years later, I can come into union and easily get work over Jamal
That is correct.
because my resume is better.
And that's why it's very important to pick and choose your battles. I think another great example too was I think it was the Flow progressive story that people kept telling me about when I first started the business. Was the competition was between another female and Flow, and Flow was in the union. The girl did a non-union commercial for an insurance company way back, and I think they found it. So that's why she could not, because of conflict of interest. That's another thing too. So there's always, as they say, there's levels to this because there's more than just union, non-union, speaking roles, non-speaking roles, media, also voiceover.
Voiceover.
That's another big market too.
That's right.
And I got introduced to that market about 2 years ago. So I love it. It's great. It's so much easier because you don't have to be on camera and you're just in the studio and they got the script and you go over the lines. That is probably the toughest, besides being on camera, to break into that business.
It is. It is tough because you only have your voice, right?
Correct.
You only have your voice, and they're judging you. What they're doing is they're closing their eyes. They're trying not to look at you, and
Yes.
they're trying to believe what you're saying.
Correct.
And if you sound believable in the script that you're reading, then there's a chance they'll like you.
Yes.
It's not guaranteed even then, because then someone else will come along with a better voice and a better presentation,
Right.
and then they'll say, "Oh, I like this one better."
Yep.
So it's just a hard market when the only thing you can showcase is your voice and not your expressions.
And that's the toughest because you also have to bring in range. Can you go low? Can you go high? Can you keep it in the middle? And sometimes that's tough because even what you're reading, you have to switch the transition of the tones as well, especially when they're starting off with the title or the name of the product and then you drop it down. So sometimes even going through that transition, you have to play around with it. Like a game. It's really a game. You're playing around with words, trying to flow to the right balance.
Right.
And so with voiceover, just to be brief, it's tough business, but if you, find your voice, set up a studio, and of course, these studios don't have to be expensive anymore.
No.
They could be much cheaper now. And of course, what I did in my last podcast, I was explaining about what you can buy and what you can use to utilize even Apple products. It doesn't have to be Apple, but they're more focused on the creative side, which is the right brain of your mind. So they're focusing on, audio, video, even using the iPad for artwork and things of that nature. So I think that's why I cater to people who buy certain products. And when I worked at Apple, I was also helping people who were going into the music business to find out what computer, what sound for their guitar or bass, things of that nature. And it just expands. It expands. And that's what's so lovely about this industry is that there's just so many avenues you can go into.
That's right.
It's amazing.
That's right. So many avenues. You can do voiceover. You can do acting. If you want to be a background actor and stay a background actor, if that's enough for you, if you have a job you love and you want to be a background actor every now and then, by all means, that's a career. You can it's a side career. It's a hobby. Whatever you want it to be. If you are experienced and you want to be a teacher now, you want to teach everybody else.
That's what I'm going to be doing.
You can do improv. You can do theater. You can do WWE. I mean, that,
Yes,
those are all, acting to an extent. I mean,
correct.
WWE more physical than,
Yes,
than acting, but there's still acting involved.
yes. They're presenting themselves. They're, in front of a large crowd. I mean, like I said, it's
And that's not just acting. That's TV, camera crew,
yep,
everything. If you're into animation, VFX,
yeah.
and everything that goes into it. It creates a lot of jobs. So it's a very interesting industry to be in.
It is, and that's what I love about it so much because you don't have to pigeonhole yourself into just one little thing.
No,
Be a vast.
no, you can do a lot of things. John Krasinski does everything.
Yeah, I'm
He
still
does.
trying to figure out if he's gonna put me in that you know, you know what I'm talking about. That Amazon Prime
Yeah,
what is it? Jack Ryan?
Jack Ryan.
I'm trying to be on episode 5 because we already went through 4 now, so I'm trying to be on episode 5.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Are they still filming?
They were on a break
Or on the break?
because they were still talking about finishing. That's why they were on a break. Just like my other favorite show, FBI International, they're back now because they were on a hiatus. A lot of films were on hiatus until February, like mid-February. Then now that was supposed to be the fall season.
Yeah, if you're an actor, you know why everyone was on hiatus. It's not a
Right.
secret.
It's not a secret, folks.
Yep, it was the writers and actors strike. We're pretty much over with that, right?
Yes, we are over with it. Business is a go. I will say March.
Excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. But March is definitely going to be like crazy as far as work coming out because we also have another studio that was built in Foxborough. I think it was last year or the year before that it just got finalized.
Yep.
And they started filming in the summertime for that. And then I don't know about that place in Weymouth. Remember they were going to buy it out. Disney was going to buy it
Yeah.
because they already filmed 3. Like I filmed Godmother there, and then the Patriot movie that was on there.
Yep. Patriot movie was on there. And that's why I keep saying, Boston is a sleeper city.
Yes,
It's a sleeper city because we have LA, we have Atlanta,
correct.
and now it's gonna be Boston. Boston's gonna be next. And it's not that it's going to be next. It's been around for a while, with the acting scene up here, with the movie industry.
Right.
We're very familiar with it in New England. It's just not as big
Yes,
as LA and Atlanta right now,
correct.
but it could be.
I think it will be because with these tax breaks that have happened recently, I think that's opening the doors. And of course, having the holdovers win that Oscar has definitely broadened the horizons for people to say, you know what? I think I'm going to start filming more in Boston because even Jeffrey Wright comes here a lot now.
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of actors that are from the New England area
Correct.
in the film industry, and it's just I bet that helps. I don't know if it does. I don't know if it's a coincidence Mark Wahlberg has filmed 6 movies in Boston, but
No, it's not a coincidence. I think it's more of just because of the vast history that we have here, there's always a great compelling story to kind of follow in where you can find your character
that's right.
and find your voice, as they say.
That's right. Well, yeah, and that's how things have been here. I mean, it's been great. Hopefully, it continues to be great, continues to thrive, and the people of Boston, the actors and actresses of Boston, will have a lot more work.
Yes, I think there will be more work in the coming months. We just have to wait. We have to be patient, but we also have to be ready. And that is going on right now where I know Boston Casting is having a class to meet casting directors to get prepared because there are going to be plenty of roles coming out. We knew that work was going to be tough for the next 6 months to 7 months. But in that time frame, what are we doing to prepare? Me, besides acting, modeling, and auditioning, then I have this. Other ways to really broaden your horizons, but still give something to the industry, something to the business.
And I can't stress this enough. Take the classes.
Yes.
Take the classes. That should be your go to.
Right.
And I wish we had done this when the actors and writers strike started,
Agree.
because that was the perfect time to take classes.
Yes.
You had months of time to take classes to hone your skill.
Right, to
And
prepare.
I wish we had gotten that word out there earlier. You know, I know they're expensive, these classes, but
Right. They're a tax write off too, because you're, especially if you're going into business for yourself, that's the number one thing. You could write these off in your taxes.
that's right. It's a school, you know, and that's what it is. When you're not on set, you're educating yourself on how to be better, and
Right.
that's how the best actors become great.
Yes, because they're always trying to reinvent yourself. And that's what they do, and that's what we want to do, and that's what you should do because you don't want to stay stagnant. You want to keep going, you want to keep rising. And that's very important in this industry.
Right.
That's why we say don't stay in background. Do not stay in background.
Do not.
Yeah.
And if you do, don't write it on your resume.
Correct. Do not write it on your resume unless that's all you have and that's all they can use. But for a lot of these directors I met, especially in LA, they do not want background on there.
Yeah, do not want background on
Right.
there. If it's the same director as the last background gig that you did, don't do it.
Right, don't do it.
You know, don't do the same director twice. You know,
Right.
as a background.
Yeah.
So it because once they see you and they recognize you, oh,
Right.
this is a background actor,
Right.
and that's your label.
Exactly. They will label you that unless you find a way to transition it because it's harder for people to change their perceptions of you, but you can change the perception of yourself.
That's right.
So that's the only way. And I think we're going to hit end to this for now because I think we're at what, the 45 mark? Just about?
Could be.
I totally forgot. Just about. Wow. 46,
yeah.
27. Yeah, so that's perfect. All right, so we're going to pause it here. We thank everybody for listening in. If you have any questions, you can always subscribe to my page. Right now, it's under Jamal Clark, but it is the Actors Podcast. And thank you guys for tuning in and listening to episode 2. Episode 3 will be coming soon. I'm not sure if it'll be in another studio or not, but I did tell you guys we did have the studio because I want to make sure I keep my word. And everybody, thank you. And Chris?
Say hi to Peter for me.
I will say hi to Peter for you.
All right. See you guys. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Perfect.
Cool.